Hi, my name is Ryan, and today the MR2 needs some work. So because I've been so focused on the other vehicles, keeping our daily drivers running, working on the Charger, I kind of drove the MR2 all summer without doing any maintenance on it, and it has some issues that need to be addressed. So the exhaust right now is being held up by some clamps and just like one of those flex pipe things you use to just patch your exhaust. So I want to put a proper flex pipe on it, weld it all up properly. As well, the oil pan's leaking. I can't get a gasket for it, so I'm going to take the oil pan off, seal with some RTV, and put it back on. And if I have time today, I'm going to try to pull the axles and change the seals in them because they're leaking as well. So let's get to it. So when I got this thing, it was actually destined for the scrapyard. I got it for a few $100, and it probably would have been best going to the scrapyard. But I decided to take it and fix it, and so I've been chasing problems since. Right now, it's a pretty good daily driver. I fixed all the major issues, but there's still lots of little things I'm chasing, such as oil leaks. So as you can see, some parts of the undercarriage here are pretty wet. I've been chasing oil leaks since day one, and I fixed a whole bunch. I already did the valve covers, I did the distributor seal, there's a oil return line that was leaking and might be leaking again. But today, I'm pretty sure the oil pan is leaking. As you can see, the whole thing is oily. It's not really, you can't really see, but it's not really oily above the oil pan. So I'm pretty sure the oil pan's leaking. As well, I feel like this axle seal on the transmission might be leaking. So I'm going to drop the oil pan and reseal it. Now, you also notice the exhaust is kind of ugly here. When I got this, it had no exhaust on it at all, and it was just chopped off before the flange. So I didn't even have the flange. So I bought a new stock exhaust and just slapped it on here. And today, I'm going to take this all off. I'm going to put that flex pipe back on. I'm going to try to weld a pipe onto there and just make it a little bit less janky like this. Here's another safety tip. Since I'm going to have the oil pan off and there's going to be no oil in the car for a while, and there's a good chance that I'm going to get called away and have to come back to this later, threw this in the steering wheel so that even if I do something dumb and come in, I don't try to start it forgetting there's no oil in it. I do have the battery disconnected as well, but I could see myself in a moment of frustration or panic throwing the battery cable back on and trying to start it. So this is just an extra safety, so if I do walk away and come back to this a week from now, I don't forget that I can't start the engine. So taking the oil pan off or anything similar that was sealed with RTV, before you can seal it back up again, whether using a real gasket or RTV, you have to get all the old RTV off. One of the best ways to do that is with a razor blade. So I'm going to go around on this and just scrape this off with a razor blade. You want to be careful not to put any gouges into the metal because that's a potential point where it could leak. So you want to try to keep the razor blade flat and just scrape everything off. If you really have to, you can use some high grit sandpaper to sand down some surfaces. You get a rough area, or if you do scratch it, try to even it out. But generally, just take a razor blade, peel off the RTV, clean it up all nice and good with brake clean. I'm also going to do it on the pan itself. Now, you also have to clean the engine block. However, in my case, because I never actually put any RTV on the engine block, mine is clean. I'll just have to wipe it up with a rag and some brake cleaner. And usually that's the hardest part, is getting under there on the engine block and scraping off all the old RTV. So I guess bonus, I don't have to do that this time. But I gotta clean up these baffles, and I gotta clean up this pan, and then put RTV on the baffles, put it on the car, put the oil pickup back on, put some RTV on the pan, and then put it back onto the car and bolt it back up, and then we can move on. Okay, so I got the pan all sealed up and back in. The oil return line also didn't have any washers on it, so it was leaking pretty good too. So whoever pulled that engine out before, because I think that's an engine replacement, and put it back, really just kind of half-assed it. I gotta put back on the plate covering the flywheel there. But other than that, oil pan's done. I shouldn't say the previous owner did anything to this vehicle, because the previous owner didn't do anything. He bought it for a project, and then after finding out that it was way worse than he expected, he sold it to me, because I'm a bigger idiot. So, thanks Tyler, not your fault. The guy who did all this crap to it was actually an owner before him, who I met at a MR2 meetup at one point, and he told me he saved this car. And by saved this car, he means that he rebuilt it without hardly any gaskets. He put an oil catch can on it, even though it has no turbo. The oil catch can vented the atmosphere, which caused a vacuum leak. He messed with the electrical in here pretty good. He put a pod filter on, which was cracked and leaking, so it wasn't actually filtering anything. He filled it with the wrong coolant, and so it was causing rust issues in the radiator. And everywhere there was rust, he sprayed in spray foam, which made the rust work. So I had to pull all that out and fix it. So, no, dude, you didn't save this car. You almost sent it to the crusher. Okay, so now that the oil pan's done, the next thing is the exhaust. So the first thing I do is clean up some of these pipes and weld them where they were just clamped together for a more permanent connection, including attaching this new flex pipe. And then I'm going to go fit it up on the car with this. This is the previous down pipe that was cut off and looks like cut off and welded repeatedly in the past. So I'm going to fit it up and see how close it is, and then add or remove any material until they match up, then take it back off the car, weld it up, and that's how we're going to do this. So I don't know how much of that my camera got before it died, but I'm pretty much done the welding now. So now the exhaust is in 3 sections. So the muffler, the first bend here is one section, the cat, the second bend, and the flex pipe are the second section. And originally this exhaust should have a flange up here, but a previous owner cut it off. So I've decided just to use this clamp to clamp it back on, so that it's easily removable, so that I don't have to fight with this whole down pipe and this whole piece all the way back to the cat if I ever need to get it off again. I'm going to add one more exhaust hanger right here and go to this bolt, just so if that clamp fails, my exhaust doesn't fall down and rip off the car. But other than that, we're pretty much done.